So the first question I have for you is how did you become interested in working in animation and illustration?
So, for illustration, I guess I've always been drawing since I was like, I don't know, as long as I can remember. So, it's just something I always enjoyed doing. It was just something I kind of always defaulted to. It was just kind of like, I'm bored. What do I do? I'll draw. So, it's funny that illustration, and like animation were actually not my initial career, like, choice. Well, not choices, but like things that I was like kind of thinking of making a career in. I wanted to be like all kinds of things. Among them, I wanted to like I loved horses. I was that horse girl, in like elementary, middle school and stuff. So I wanted to have a ranch. I wanted to be a museum curator because one of the things that I really love is also history. And so I wanted to like work in a museum and work with like artifacts and stuff. But I think it was like in middle school. No, it was junior high. It was like around junior high when it was actually when I watched Toy Story 3 and Star Wars The Clone Wars. Those two things got me really interested in animation. Is like to seriously think about it as a career. Because like watching Toy Story 3, I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was a great movie. I watched with my friends, watched with my family, and I was like, wow, this movie's so awesome. And I loved watching a lot of the like the behind the scenes features like on the DVD, like I don't think they have them anymore. I don't know. I only use streaming services now, so I don't know. I don't know what people put on DVDs anymore. But I know like back then, in the special features section, it'd have like the little featurettes and you'd have like the interview with the director, the artist, or whatever. And I loved watching those. And so that really made me super interested in animation. I was like, wow, this team of people, like they got together and they made a movie. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. So that was a big thing that got me interested. And then the other thing, the Clone Wars, uh, my friend, I had never seen a Star Wars movie up until like, I don't know, like age 12. And so my friend got me into Star Wars. And so then I discovered the Clone Wars and I was like, this show is incredible. Oh my gosh. Like I really resonated with like one of the main characters, Ahsoka Tano. Cause like by the time I got into Clone Wars, I was like 14 when I first started like watching the show. Ahsoka was also 14. So for me to be like a 14-year-old girl seeing another 14-year-old girl going on all these like space adventures and stuff, like I don't know, it like really meant a lot to me to see her in like this kind of like this really important position and role in the story and having so much like agency and stuff. So I was like, wow, this is cool. Like, huh. And I was like, what if I made my own Star Wars stories and stuff like that would be really cool. And so like both of those two things just got me thinking like, wow, I wonder if you could like do this as like a career. And my mom was like really supportive about it. She like would check out books from the library. Cause like early on, once I started like entering high school, she was like, you need to start thinking about careers, Paulina. And so she would go to the library and check out books of like just different things that she thought I was interested in. And so she checked out a book for me about animation. What's funny though is that that book was actually more focused on like the like modeling, rigging, like more like the technical 3D side of animation. And I remember like there was a section of the book that was like, yeah, you have to know a lot about like anatomy and like math and stuff like that, but they were referring more to things like modeling, which makes sense. If you're a character modeler, you do need to understand like anatomy, human anatomy and stuff to make like good believable characters. And then like math is also important too, especially if you're going to be like a rigger or something like that. But for me, math and science were not my strong points. So I was like, never mind. I don't want to learn math and science. I just want to draw. And so then like that idea of going into animation kind of lay dormant for a bit. It wasn't until I started like needing to look at colleges and stuff where I was like, okay, I do love art though, like, and I really want to like pursue it. And so then I was, looking at different schools and I looked at UTD and I was like, huh, because my mom was like, hey, local school and they have like art stuff. You should check it out. You might like it. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I looked at UTD. I liked their program. Initially, I came wanting to do concept art. It was so funny. When I had learned about storyboarding and like what they do, and you have to draw like a million drawings, to help like plan the story out for animation. And I was like, I don't know, maybe in like a junior or sophomore in high school when I first learned about it. And I was like, I will never do storyboarding. Like, no way. It looks so hard. I can't do this. And so then when I came to UTD, I was like, storyboarding, I'm not gonna do that. Jokes on me, I'm doing storyboarding now. But so I was like, I'm gonna do concept art. And UTD, at least when I came, it was not really for the animation like program. It's not really focused on like concept art. It's more focused on like the 3D pipeline. Although they are starting from what I've when I was like leaving, they were adding like more classes for storyboarding. And so so I came to UTD. It was like I can do concept art, and then I took some classes and I started learning more about what storyboarding was, and then I realized I liked it. I was like, wow, this is actually kind of cool. And so then I got into storyboarding and here I am now. And then like illustration, it was kind of, I guess, kind of happened at the same time. It was just, I don't know. I feel like illustration, it's like drawing, like here's drawing, it's like the most basic, it's not for a production. I mean, it might be, but like it's more, you can like just like make an illustration to be like, okay, this illustration is done. Or if you're working on a children's book, okay, you're making a series of illustrations with text in mind, for this book. But it's kind of more, I guess, like I feel like I feel like it's a simpler process than like, than with storyboarding. I mean, it's still difficult, of course, just art in general is difficult, but regardless of what, specific field you go into. But yeah, so like, wanting to draw more was I realized I think the thing with illustration, a part of what made me realize I was more interested in illustration than concept art was for concept art it's more like focusing on like the idea sort of process and you have to be kind of more like for character something like character design, you have to do like character turnarounds and stuff, and I was like, I don't really want to do that. I want to do like just like the one illustration. Like I don't mind doing sketches, to plan for the illustration, but I want to do just like one illustration and kind of be done with it. Whereas concept art, it's a much more iterative process, and to do like polished drawings but like iteratively was something that I wasn't really interested in. I was like, nah, I just want to just do my big illustration and then kind of, move on to like the next project. Um, so yeah, so that's like the really condensed version of like how I, grew up and became interested in illustration and storyboarding.
Well, thank you for sharing all that. And besides what you had mentioned already, how did your time as an ATEC student help you out with pursuing your goals?
So I learned a lot about the pipeline in animation. So like for ATEC, so I took, obviously, the core basic classes, and that helped a lot with like figuring out like what's out there, what's available, what can you do like with an ATEC degree, what are the different things you can do in animation specifically. And one of the, let's see, I'm trying to remember, a lot of my time at UTD is kind of like this blur. It's like it just kind of all happened like at once. It's just like UTD. So I think one of the first classes I took that really kind of started. Well, I mean, obviously the introduction to computer animation class like kind of showed me all like the different departments, and then but diving further into like for example storyboarding, I did an independent study. And then I did the pre-production class, which is like more focused on the storyboarding side of things. And then both of those helped me a lot with like laying the foundation for like storyboarding, but then understanding like the full pipeline and how that works. Two things are like super important were super important in helping me learn about like animation and like, just be a better artist and stuff. And it's like like side group projects. And then also animation lab. Like animation lab was like an incredible experience. I absolutely loved it. It was awesome. And so Animation Lab 1 and 2, it's basically you make an animated short and it's basically set up like you're basically a little animation studio and so a bunch of students coming together and you work on this short and you get to see that whole process. And I actually didn't work on like the animation or story part of the short. I was on the marketing team. So I would interview the different department heads and make little like behind the scenes. I was basically making the featurettes that I would watch as a kid.
Full
And
circle.
yeah, exactly. And so yeah, so I would interview like the department heads and like take pictures and stuff and like, assemble these like behind the scenes like videos and things. And through doing that, I was able to see so much of like I was able to see up close like all the work that it takes to make an animated short. And that was like incredibly helpful, not just in terms of like learning how to like work in animation specifically, but also just learning how to work on a team like in general. Like if you're like working on a big project, you have to know how to be a leader, but also how to like listen to people and like work with people and stuff. How to kind of like you want to carry out the vision of like the thing that you're leading on, but you also want to consider other people's input. And like honestly, sometimes other people's ideas like will be better than your own. And so then, but for the purpose of the project that you're working on, it's like, yes, let's use your idea. That's awesome. And everyone just kind of comes together to make this thing, whatever that thing may be, whether it's animation or some other project. So animation lab was super helpful. And then also working on my capstone project, it was a short story that I wrote the beat outlines for, and then I storyboarded everything. I created the character designs, but it was definitely not like a solo thing at all. Like I had like a lot of help from my professors, from my friends. Actually Chase helped me out on my capstone. It
Oh,
was
nice.
Chase and then our friend Gina and me, we all worked together on like doing the like story, like the revisions. So like I would plan out like the shots and stuff, but like to do the, you have the storyboard artist, then you have like the revisionist to kind of help polish things up. And all three of us were like working, like revising, the boards and stuff. And then another friend of mine, Allison, she worked as the sound designer. And so she was like recording audio and stuff. And like we worked together because there wasn't a lot of dialogue, but there was some dialogue in my capstone. And so we worked together and like recording the dialogue with people. A bunch of people, like, friends and family came together. I was like, please, does anyone want to volunteer to be on my capstone, like voice actors and stuff? And they were like, yeah, sure. And so they helped me out on that as well. So it was definitely like a group effort. So running that capstone project, working in animation lab, also working on like other friends' capstones. So I actually helped Allison on her capstone. Like after I graduated, I was a storyboard. Me and Chase actually, and Gina, we were all storyboard artists on Allison's capstone. And that was a really awesome experience. That was, like I said, that was like after I graduated, but I still consider it as part of my time at ATEC. So it was like literally like right the semester right after I had graduated. And then I worked on another friend's capstone as well. That was his capstone. I don't know if I don't know if you've heard of him or not, but his name's Jordan Turner. He's awesome.
I have.
Yeah, he's a great guy. And I worked on his capstone, and that was actually one of the first projects where I got to do storyboards. And it was like a short, I can't remember, it was just like a few seconds long, but it was like a really sweet, nice short. And that was like a really great experience, like working on a team and working on like storyboards for production. So yes, that's how I would say that's how my time at ATEC really helped me like grow as an artist and also learn about the industry, and just kind of helped prepare me for for like the professional world and stuff. And then also all of the talks of all the industry people that would come, and then just talking to professors and stuff, like not just in class but also outside of class, just interacting with them. It was really great. So that's how I would say that's how my time at ATEC helped me out
You
in
were
learning my craft. I
you were busy to say the least.
was busy, yeah.
You are the number one recruit to work on somebody's capstone. And-
Yeah, I love doing it. It's so much
oh yeah,
fun. I love helping
right.
my friends with their projects and stuff.
Yes. I was almost tempted to ask you, like, could you work on my capstone? But I'm not an animation student. But but yeah. So for you, like, since you graduated career-wise, what has that journey been like for you?
So I graduated December 2019. So right before like the storm of the pandemic,
Yes.
just like changing everything. So that kind of like threw things for a loop for a little bit. I had started, right before the pandemic, I had started teaching art classes, and I would like go to people's houses and like just teach their kids. I taught kids from like, I think the youngest was like 6, and then the oldest was like 15, 16, something like that. And so I'd create lesson plans, like for the students, like art levels, like, or like their, I guess, the levels that they were comfortable with. And so I did that for a bit, and then the pandemic hit. And so then the art classes came to an end, unfortunately. But then I was also, at the time, I was also working on Allison's capstone, and like we had been working we would meet on campus. I would go like after teaching art classes, and then the pandemic came, and then we kind of moved everything online. So that was a really fun experience. And then after that, I started my own Etsy business, and so I make illustrations, stickers, little buttons, keychains, just like a bunch of like fun little, merchandise items. And so that's what I've been working on over the course of like the pandemic. Also a Patreon as well, where I just like share like my process and like wallpapers and coloring pages of my art. And I've also currently running a charity zine. It's digital right now, and so it's I'm not sure if like the sorry
No
for
worries.
charity my brain just the charity zine. It's a small publication where we have like artwork and poetry and like recipes and stuff, and all of the money will be going that we make from like selling the zine will go to help the Association for India's Development, because of like right now the situation in India is like really dire with like the COVID crisis and stuff, and so we wanted to raise money to donate. And so this association is like helping to, alleviate the situation as best they can right now. So that's what I've been, the zine has actually been ongoing. We started in March, like recruiting people and like, working on like that whole process. We're finishing up actually Gina is also helping on the zine, and she's our layout, graphics and layout mod. So she's helping with all the graphic design for that and like assembling it together in like the PDF. And then we're going to be opening pre-orders later this month. So yeah, all that's just kind of been keeping me busy over the course of the pandemic. Also, been with the pandemic, it's been rough, but a silver lining is that a lot of these animation conventions that are typically in person have been hosted online, which is really great, because then that means, because before I was not able to like attend these like in person, but now that they're online, I was able to go to a whole bunch of these, and that's been like super awesome, a great opportunity. I've learned so much about the industry. It's like it took everything I learned in ATEC and then like added onto it and just like really pushed it further and stuff, and it was fantastic. And then also Rise Up Animation. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them.
I'm a part of Rise Up.
Okay,
Yeah.
nice. So I got involved with Rise Up Animation. Got a mentorship there with one of the people who like volunteers with them. So yeah, that's just kind of been what I've been up to for the past year. It's been
That's
keeping me pretty busy.
Well, I'll say that's wonderful that you're able to do all these different things. You're helping out other people, doing things for yourself as well, and finding that balance, what it seems like as well. So much respect to you for just being able to
Thank you.
do all that and enjoy what you're doing at the exact same time. And so, just based on all the experiences you've had, what advice would you share to college students?
um, First off, don't work yourself too hard. Like work hard, but don't kill yourself. You want to find like that balance. Because like you want to dedicate yourself to your classes, to your craft, and that's definitely important. But you also want to make sure to take breaks. Because like burnout is not fun. And if you've gotten to the point where you feel really burned out, it's you're not going to be able to create whatever it is that you're creating the same. So take care of your mental, emotional, physical health. That's like super important. Another thing that I would advise for college students is don't be afraid to do like your own side projects like outside of class, which I know is easier said than done, because when you have college classes, it's like, oh, what do you mean another project? I can't do more.
Yes.
So like I totally understand that. But like even if it's like a really what will help if you to do like those extra side projects is go like really really small scope. And if you think it's like when you're like, okay, I've made it really small, make it smaller. Because I will guarantee that once you start working on this thing, whether it's like a little animation short or like a game or like whatever, when you actually start working on it, it's gonna explode. It's gonna get a lot bigger. You're gonna be like, oh, this was a lot more work than I thought it was gonna be. Stuff is gonna break, stuff is gonna get mixed up, or whatever. Like you're gonna run into problems, and that's in every like is in every production pipeline. Like it's not just because like, oh, oh, it's like maybe it's your first project, that's why. No, like even like the professionals, like there's going to be something that goes wrong in the pipeline, and you have to like adjust for that. So when you make that like side project, like make it, it's okay to like be like, oh, to go big, but also kind of be realistic and like kind of scale it down a little bit. Because then when you scale it down, once you actually start working on it, and then you're like, oh wow, this is this is more than like something, went wrong, or not even something going wrong, but maybe you have a new idea and you're like, oh, I want this to be different than what I originally thought. If you already started small, then if something goes wrong, it's okay, because the scope was small, so it's not like it's going to completely spiral out of control. And if things are going okay, but you have a new idea, then then also it's fine, because you started small, and so you're able to add on that new thing that you came up with, like in the middle of production. So yeah, so I'd say those two things, like take care of yourself, and don't be afraid to do like those extra little side projects. Help each other out, like when like on capstone, like people collaborating together, that makes like for really strong capstones, and like and also really great portfolio work too and stuff. So yes, those are my two things. Like teamwork makes the dream work, and take breaks. Those are probably the two biggest pieces of advice I have. Oh, and then also another piece of advice, when you're on campus, don't be afraid to like branch out a little bit and join groups that maybe aren't directly related to like animation and stuff. Like it's great to like be really passionate about like art and creativity, or whether it's games or animation, ATEC related stuff. But it's also good to kind of have outlets in other ways too. Like you want to try to be involved on campus in other ways, which again, I know it's easier said than done. I completely understand. But like, join that club, or volunteer with like the multicultural center, or get involved in swab, like just these different there's like these different things that are like really awesome on campus, and like you're gonna learn a lot from those experiences. And it'll also be like a good break too, because sometimes the best way you can help with your own creative process is just to take a step back and like not touch it for a little bit, like just ignore it. It doesn't exist. You focus on something completely different, and then when you come back, you'll find yourself feeling refreshed and ready to take on whatever challenge comes next in your project or in your classes or whatever. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say.
For those who are watching, she spoke nothing but facts. All facts is what you just said about college advice, and I'm gonna start taking your advice as well, because there are some things I know that you're saying that I need to work on as well. So this was a great conversation to
Oh yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Glad I was able to,
have.
give some helpful tips.
Oh yes.
Thanks so much for having me for this interview, by the way.
Oh, no problem, no problem. It's nice to have you. Nice to share your experience as well, and I'm sure it's going to impact people.
Thank you.